Hi, Big Jim here on Lucille Marine, working on our rudder. One of the disadvantages of being in the Midwest is that we have to haul our boats out in the wintertime. The water freezes and causes all sorts of trouble. Well, getting the boat out of the water prevents the boat from freezing, but unfortunately, a lot of times you get water into parts of the boat and then that freezes, and that can cause various kinds of damage all over the boat. For example, I had a lot of water damage around my windows and port lights because over time, the previous owners had replaced some of the windows, but they used the same screw holes to screw the new windows in and didn't bother filling those and then rebedding them properly. So as a result, water got in over time. And then a little tiny bit of water is not a problem. It's when you let it sit there, and especially in the Midwest where it gets cold in the wintertime, you will have the water get into areas, freeze, and it might be just microscopic amounts of water the first time it happens. And then as it freezes each year, because you get the boat out of the water, it sometimes will rain before it freezes or snows. Sometimes the snow will fall and then melt and then slowly get into cracks and crevices. And then that will freeze solid, and then that keeps expanding the hole. And in this case, for the rudder, what you might see here is I ground out some of the fiberglass, and there's little voids. I don't know if you can see them on the camera, but here in the area here, there looks like some kind of fiberglass foam. It doesn't look like solid fiberglass or resin. And as a result, the water was getting into these little areas here and then freezing. And then over time, over many, many years, this boat is 40 years old, it actually created some voids. So inside the core here, the core has actually disintegrated over time because of the freezing water. And now we have voids in the rudder. So the plan is to, first of all, remove all the loose fiberglass and try to access areas where there is only voids. We're going to fill that up with thickened epoxy with some chopped strand in there. And then I'm planning on using epoxy infusion, resin infusion, to hopefully suck liquid resin deep into the rudder and all those fissures and things like that we might have, because if I get some thin penetrating epoxy, I might be able to get it deep enough into the rudder where the water has gotten many times, and then that hopefully will displace the water. So the first step will be to set up the rudder with vacuum infusion, and then just put a vacuum on the rudder and see if it pulls any water out. Because unfortunately, the way they design these rudders is their best hope is that water won't get in. But what they really should design your rudders for is having a drainage system inside that you can then open when you take the boat out of the water, because water will get in. It's just going to happen. So you can't say it won't. And then once you have the boat out of the water, you can open the drain and then let all that water drain out over the wintertime. And that way, hopefully it won't ever build up. So if I was going to rebuild this rudder from scratch, I would actually put channels inside and hopefully make the entire outside of the rudder waterproof as much as you possibly can. And then, while it's in the water, it's going to be if water gets in, it's going to get in, but it won't hurt it during the summertime, except for maybe causing some rust if there is any ferrous metal in there. And so the point here is I'm going to fill in all these cuts and grooves over on this side. We've got a really deep gouge that obviously had some damage there. And we're going to fill all that in with thickened epoxy. The various gouges here will also be filled in. First, I'll fill the holes in with the thickened epoxy. Then I'll use regular epoxy, or not, fiberglass, to build up these areas again so that they're structural. And then once I get the structural fiberglass in, then I will put in, once it's all smooth and faired out, I'll put in some regular fiberglass cloth. Put at least 2 or 3 layers of that on there before I finish, and then apply the epoxy under infusion. Actually, I might do the infusion without the cloth on first, so that I get the maximum amount of penetration into the rudder itself. The first step will be to put some bags on here and see if I can get a vacuum. So, because there's so many different places where air can get in, I have to figure out exactly how to get that to be airtight. Then we have a nice little split right there on the end of the rudder, which is not good, and that's going to have to be wrapped with cloth, 3 or 4 layers of cloth to strengthen that and reinforce it, and then hopefully get this boat in the water before September. If I get some decent weather, the problem with most epoxies is that they recommend work above 50 degrees, and it's right now March 10th in the Midwest, and it's 34 degrees today, and don't see any 50-degree weather coming up anytime soon. So I'm hoping that in the next week or two the weather will start turning warmer, and we'll be able to start working seriously on the fiberglass part of this. I got to start ordering supplies for the vacuum infusion, and then hope for the best. Anyways, that's what I'm doing right now, so I'll check back in with you later and give you an update.